More neighbors walking by. That's good. I love my neighbors. Um, so, anyway, I knew something was coming up. I knew John's coming back and everything, but I was the only person that the city would work with for turning off the water, turning it on. The city loved me. That was a big thing I brought to WSU, not just my skills, but my relationships with all the city officials. And I was the chairman of IAPMO, the local code board, and they were getting a great deal with me. I designed all my own plans. When I do remodels, I'd go down to the business city hall and I'd get my plans approved, and I'd pull the permits, and I'd call for the inspections, and every time they'd come out and see my work, they would love it, and you do such a good job, So there was all kinds of stuff that I saved the college a lot of money, a lot of time, did things better. This was going to be another one, and but the city was coming in Friday. That's where I got. So these guys, they were trying to do what they could to get me out of there that night. They wanted to drag me over to HR and say I was drunk or on drugs or I didn't know what they were going to do. But I was like, I'm off work. I'm sick. I'm dirty. And my wife and I have been riding together. And so Barb doesn't get off for another half an hour. It's 4:30. I'm going to take a shower, get this stuff off of me, and I'm going to go get Barb. We're supposed to go out to dinner. And he just lost it, this guy. And he came back second time, and he had the HR person with him, which I'd never met. A brand new person. I just hadn't met her yet, didn't know who she was. We also had hired, they go through a lot of people down there. Just I left, they've gone through probably another dozen people because of this work situation, the bad situation they had there. But they'd gotten rid of the head of the security police, campus police, who was like a retired New York detective guy, more than capable, and his lieutenant. They got rid of both of them because they didn't like him. They made up a story very similar to mine that they had threatened or assaulted these same guys, and so they got rid of them. And since then, those guys have won their suit. They filed suit against WSU just like I have, and they both settled out of court. So they won their suits. My suit's been going on for like 2.5 years. They keep pushing the trial back. Now it's next year, July, I think, of next year, and I might not be alive by then. I think that's what they're hoping. They're hoping that I'll just die and go away, and they won't have to admit what they did, which was terrible, just terrible. That's not, state policy and WSU policy. Nobody, they shouldn't have hired these two guys. These were bad hires. They should never been They shouldn't have been taking out the garbage, and they were put in charge, and they just weren't capable, and they handled it terrible on their own, and I understand that. And the only way they could get me out of there was to testify that I was a safety risk and that I had attacked them and thrown tools at them and pushed them against the wall and threatened their lives. Well, they're not. They haven't changed their story. That was coming up on 4 years ago, and I lost my job, and I fought it and couldn't get it back, and I applied for 5 other state jobs with schools and stuff, and I was their first choice and most qualified, and they said, we got to contact WSU, and I said, no problem. I told them exactly what happened, and I said, Chancellor DeWald told me that it might be good if I asked him. They were paying me to sit home for 3 months. I was going crazy, so I felt like Chancellor DeWald was on my side, and he just couldn't do anything about it. And but he gave me his private email and phone number and stuff, and he said, if you would like to go get another state job, and get paid twice as much as you are now, I'll make sure that your resume, a letter, whatever, none of this will be on there. We'll just say that you were a great plumber, and you went on to make more money. Well, I don't know who these. There was 2 or 3 jobs with Meade School District. Those were the best ones. I'd already turned down the school one, but I asked them again, and then it was Eastern State Hospital, and something else in Airway Heights. But there was 5 of them, and they were all good jobs, and they were all union, and they all paid a lot of money, and I'd have been happy to get any of them. but all of them contacted me and said, we can't hire you. We're state, some of them are schools, we got students, state hospital, all this stuff. WSU told us that you attacked 2 supervisors, and that's still on the record. You are they say not to hire you because you are a safety risk to yourself and others. And so legally they said we cannot hold that information back. We're responsible by law to let you know that you shouldn't hire this person because he's a safety risk. So then I went back into work for myself, but I was so sick. I spent my retirement. I refinanced the house. I sold everything I could to go back in business. Bought a new vehicle, and my customers were so happy to have me back. That was great. Made my heart feel good. But I could only do so much, and it was like I could only work half as much as I used to, and almost every month it was a little bit less and a little bit less. And then I finally got down to the end of this last year, 2022, end of the year. I just had to quit. My last job was out at State Patrol. It was good. I mean, I still had great contacts. This was a government job, and I had worked out there quite a bit. And I just had one little tiny thing to kind of finish up out there. But I was so sick, but I had to get the water back on, had to get it done. And I was working in a really tiny space and trying to move a wrench, and it would have been nothing to me, before COVID. But now, I just forced myself to keep going and pushing that wrench, and I passed out, and I was stuck in there, and I had to get help out, and I finally rolled out onto the ground, and there's State Patrol officers out there helping me, and I'm just totally drenched in sweat, and I'm shaking, and they wanted to call EMT, and I said, no, this is just me lately. I'm gonna quit, and they said, are you driving home? Yeah, and I did, but they suggested that I turn in my license, which I did. I said, I will. And right after that, I quit my job, and I turned in my driver's license, and I quit driving. And I applied for disability, and I've applied 4 times for disability. All my doctors and neurologists and specialists have all written letters to Social Security saying that I'm completely disabled. I mean, I can sit like this, for a bit. I can stand for a little bit, but if I can't stand for very long, and I can't, if I'm exerting myself, I could only go about 15 minutes. I mowed the front yard today. I had to go lay down for a couple hours. Mowed a little bit in the back in again. So that's my condition, and I'm totally broke, and I've sold everything I could, and I'm still waiting for disability, and I'd like to get some money from WSU, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. I might be dead. I really would like to leave my wife, out of debt, and that's the only reason that I want money from WSU is for my wife, pay off the house, and she'll be okay. But what I really want from WSU is an admission that this was bad. Does this sound like something that would be acceptable for Washington State University to do when H.R. and Pullman had all the letters, Now, they got to believe these 2 guys that are lying and saying I attacked them, but I know there was cameras up there. When they brought me in for a hearing, and what would you like to have at the hearing and different things. First of all, they said, you can bring one employee with you, one of your fellow employees. You can bring them with them to testify, a character witness. And I asked everybody in that department that was underneath the one guy that got me fired, and every one of them said they'd love to, but this guy had gone to them and said, don't do it. If you do this, you're going to lose your job too. And most of those guys have quit now, but none of them would come with me. And so my wife works there. I said, how about my wife? I'd like to have my wife, Barbara, there. She works here. She's an employee. I'd rather have her hear this and see this than take my word for it and try to explain it to her, because this is just outrageous, And I said, the only thing I want there is the video. I said, I know there's cameras up there. I was in a big mechanical room that was wide open with cameras. And I went out onto the roof, which I know there's cameras out there. They always watch on the roof. And So they said that I attacked these two guys in this big mechanical area, and then I ran out on the roof and I was acting crazy, and they were afraid I was going to jump off the roof. I was like, I'm scared of heights, you know. It was it was February, and it was a nice sunny day. I remember coming out and getting my mask off, and I'm covered in dust and stuff, and I'm sick. But what a nice day. It was just a beautiful day. I remember going over somewhat close to the side, but I'm scared of heights, you know. So I got close as I wanted to get, and I said, wow, such a beautiful day. I can't believe how nice it is. And one of the guys, Peyton, I can mention it, he doesn't work there anymore. Andrew doesn't work there anymore. There have been a lot of guys are gone. And I'm still friends with all of them. But Peyton felt bad. He knew what was going down and what this guy was putting me through. This guy, Peyton, knew that. He's got to stop using names. And he felt sorry for him, and he goes, how's the job coming? And I said, you know what, I'm really sick, but I just decided I'm going to have a good attitude, and I'm just, I'm doing it the best I can, and I'm not complaining, In fact, I'd like you to come look at it. When you have time, you should come over and look. I've added some extra valves and stuff, and I because this Peyton was like me. He was mechanical. I liked him a lot. I said, I want to show you this stuff anyway, in case you need to do something with it. And I don't think he came and looked at it, but both those, my two good friends, those young men that I like so much, Andrew and Peyton, had been told by this other guy, their supervisor, and my supervisor, to find an opportunity where they could say that I was unstable and a safety risk. And so as soon as I left, I didn't know anything happened. They ran down and went over to the main supervisor and made up a story about me running around on the roof, and they were afraid I was going to jump off and I was acting crazy and stuff. This is a big conspiracy, and it needs to come out. I know this happened, okay? And so I go to my trial, and I can't get Andrew or Peyton or anybody else to come, but I got my wife there, which I'm very glad I did. And I was just me and the chancellor. HR might have been there, but supposedly all the other guys were on speakerphone and listening, And I really wanted to face them face to face. I wanted to have them look me in the eye and lie to me in the eye, but they wouldn't do it, But they didn't say one word on that speakerphone. But I just said, okay, my file was up to an inch thick now. They kept the first thing they said about throwing tools and all this stuff. I defended myself, and I corrected all these things that were wrong, and so they just wrote it up differently, sent it to me again. And I think I corrected them 4 times, and they sent it back to me 4 times with corrections, which is just interesting. I got all this stuff. I have all the information. So I got to get a drink here. Hang on. I don't remember.